Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Majority Show, Scotland's #1 politics and chat discussion from an anti-nationalist perspective. My name is Mark Devlin. I'm the host for tonight, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Mary Devlin and David Griffiths. David, what have you got for us tonight? David first, sorry.
Hello everyone. Tonight I will be examining tactical voting ahead of the Rutherglen and Hamilton West by-election.
Oh, that is an important topic. And Mary, what have you got?
Hi everyone. Well, tonight I'm going to be talking about the spend on credit cards of Scotland's civil service and the outrage at what they've been charging to us mugs, the taxpayer.
Yes, it's raining money in Holyrood. Anyway, and later we're going to play an extract of an interview I did with Tom Gallagher, who's just got a new book which analyses Nicola Sturgeon in the context of Europe's leadership famine. And talking of books, we'll also have been having a look at Sturgeon, who has announced that she's going to be writing a memoir.
All right.
Yes.
Great.
I write.
David, you're up.
Right, cool. Okay.
No, go
Oh, sorry, hang on. Sorry, guys. Sorry, hang on a second. And of course, we have Zoomer of the Week.
That's right. How could you forget all of that?
We haven't forgotten.
We'll be back with all that and much more in just a few moments. Right, welcome back to the Majority Show, Scotland's #1 politics chat. My name is Mark Devlin. I'm here tonight with Mary Devlin and David Griffiths, who hasn't been with us for a few weeks. So what have you been up to, David?
Yes, yet again, I've been on my travels. I've spent some time down in that place, as Serena Cowdery charmingly calls England. Lovely time down in Windsor and also up in Cheshire. Absolutely wonderful.
Okay. Nice
Nice to be back. Anyway, since I've been back, of course, I won't dwell on this too long, but I have been dealing with the fallout of yet another nightmare flat rental. Some of you, I think you guys probably saw a couple of the images I distributed.
Oh, yes.
I didn't go too deeply into this thing. Last time that it happened, obviously I've had a few niggers. There was a kind of malicious act a couple of times. This wasn't. And the reason I'm mentioning this is that the incident itself, the issue, highlights a real disconnect with vulnerable adults in private rentals in Scotland. And to keep a long story short, the various bodies all seem very happy to wash their hands to a great extent of their obligations whenever a vulnerable adult takes on a private letting. Like when I spoke to the council about this poor person, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it in a second, they said, well, she's not our tenant, she's yours, nothing to do with us. And she's been paid disability allowance by the council. She's been paid a rent by the council. So really, I mean, where does your responsibility start and end would be my question. But anyway, the result of all of this is that a very pleasant young woman who should never have been left to live alone unsupervised has been committed to a psychiatric hospital where she's been living for the last 6 weeks.
That's a shame.
It's a real tragedy, and that's why I'm not at all angry, but it's more sad, really. Anyway, I'll maybe to discuss this more if we discuss this as a topic subsequently, but I would say that in putting this right, I've been undertaking easily the most disgusting work I've ever done. I mean, way too disgusting to mention on here, but all because a young woman is apparently unable to throw out a single item of rubbish after 2 years. Now, think about that, guys.
We always wonder about, you see those shows like Hoarders and all this, and you think, how can that happen? And it's just, it's really terrible. It's terrible that it's happened to you, and of course, terrible that the person felt was in a situation that they
absolutely
that they were like that.
Indeed, I mean, with a tiny bit of help, I really think this could have been avoided, but it's such a shame. But anyway, we can cope with it. It's just a matter of cleaning up, but it's fine. But this poor girl, I really feel for her. I genuinely do. So if I can help her in any way, I will do. It's such a shame. Anyway, it's all part of the property letting business. There's no point in me complaining.
Yeah, well, you're one of the hated landlords from Ross Greer. So, it's you shouldn't really be fulfilling the social functions like that and social care, of course.
Absolutely.
The government, of course, the Scottish government should be looking after vulnerable people, and especially especially if those people don't have any family or safety network around them.
Right.
So it seems interesting that maybe talk about that later in another show. And your experience, you've not had much luck though, have you really?
Well, it seems we're maybe a little too keen to get a flat occupied, and we maybe don't do sufficiently stringent checks. I mean, we have had 2 flats with cannabis factories, 2 other flats where there's been willful destruction and, I guess, what you call accidental. It's just real, not looking after it in the slightest. Really, it's willful. I mean, damage, terrible damage.
Right.
So yeah, it's not. We haven't been very lucky, but some of the tenants we have are, I mean, genuinely first class. So I'm not going to complain.
Right. Well, it's a hit and miss, I guess. Anyway,
Exactly right.
Right. If you're watching the show on YouTube, you can get a shout out with a super thanks or super sticker donation. There's a wee button there. Click that, and it gives you options. You can do stuff. And if you're not on YouTube, please go to the majority site where you can pledge a monthly or one-time donation. And Mary's put that wee QR code up there.
It's cute, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
Very nice. Very nice. So remember the motto: sharing is caring. Wherever wherever you are, please like, share, comment, tell your friends, and extend the reach of the show at the click of one little button.
And of course, a huge thanks as usual to our friends at UK Union Voice and United Against Separation, from whose Facebook pages many of you will be watching this evening.
And as usual, I'll be handling all your comments, so please keep them short and snappy, and I'll try to get as many up on screen as I can.
Okay, we have lots to talk about on the show today. Thank you for the comments that have come in so far. It's really great to see you all from all different areas of Scotland and around the world. Will we do this bit? Okay. Do you want a better Scotland that doesn't have nationalism? The toxic nationalism that is strangling Scotland's potential? Yes, I think we all do that, and that's probably why you're watching the show tonight. But unfortunately, we will be taking, or fortunately, perhaps, we will be taking a break for the next 2 weeks. So we will see you again in 3 weeks from now, which is going to be Wednesday, August the 30th. Okay, so in a few minutes, Mary's going to be talking about the Scottish Government's magic credit cards. First, it was announced today that Nicola Sturgeon will be writing a memoir. Okay, apparently the book will be a deeply personal and revealing memoir from one of Britain's most significant political leaders of recent times. Miss Sturgeon said the book would be frank about my regrets, as well as cover what she is proud of, and will reflect on the challenge of being a woman in politics.
Well, if it's full of regrets, it might be longer than War and Peace.
Yeah, right.
Very good. Okay, you're storing that one up there, Mary.
No, I just thought of it.
Very good. Okay. But we wonder about if these regrets or prideness, I don't know if that's the right word.
Pride.
But yes, will include putting rapists into women's prison. I've got a big long list here. Yeah. No, not knowing whether rapist is a man or not, hating Tories, blue, red, or yellow, cutting the bottom off of doors, crisis in the NHS, ferries that don't sail, trying to jail Alex Salmond, the death trap A9, letting the toxic Greens into Parliament, and a long list of failed laws. Not forgetting that she didn't achieve her life's work of gaining Scottish independence. David, any thoughts on this?
Well, yeah, I mean, I very, very much doubt that there will be any frankness or any revelations of any description of any worth in this whole thing. I think it will be very much in line with her valedictory speech when she left office, when she mentioned Scotland 11 times and I, me, or my 167 times. It'll be very much the same. I mean, there's not much doubt about Nicola Sturgeon's favourite pronoun, me. That's all it is. So really, it's going to be the same old nonsense saying that the baby boxes have revolutionised world the healthcare in Scotland, or some nonsense like this. It's going to be nothing whatever about what she's done really wrong, which is ruin Scotland. I don't believe for a minute she'll say, I will have to be judged on education, I failed, therefore I will leave public life, which is what she should do. But no, so I think we will get nothing of any value out of this wholly self-indulgent exercise. I think it'll be yet more look at me and getting ourselves in front of cameras and microphones.
Yes, there'll be all that, won't there? There'll be the book tour, the publicity, the Edinburgh Fringe Festival talks, every book what's the word? Fair will have her in there. Now I noticed that actually she's going to be hosting a book fair with the author Andrew Hagan down in Irvine, and it seems a strange choice for anyone at this point in time to have Nicola Sturgeon hosting an event for them, whether they like books or not. I mean, so I'm not going to go.
Maybe Janie Godley was busy.
Oh, that's true. I mean, what was the rest of the lineup? Isn't it Elaine C. Smith and Pat Nevin? My God, can you think of any 4 people you'd sooner not think? Andrew Hagan.
I'd pay money not to go.
Andrew Hagan's a good writer. There's no doubt he's a good writer. He's a terrific. Yes. Mayflies was outstanding. But for him to appear in tow with those guys.
Well, if you fly with the cross, you shot with the cross, something like that. Now, of course, if you have watched the majority or followed the majority for a while, you will know that we already suggested some book titles that she should write. Oh, there we go. Number 1, A Big Boy Did It and Ran Away. How to Blame England, Salmond and the Tories for Absolutely Everything. Yeah. Or we could, it wasn't me, says Alex Salmond. Okay. Or The Sensational Follow-Up. It wasn't me. She learned from the best, says Alex Salmond. Or the shame-free sequel to A Big Boy Did It and Ran Away, and it wasn't me. These things happen. I've seen on TV every day for a year. How to deflect racism, scandal, incompetence, failed targets, care home deaths, drug deaths, and much more with just a shrug.
Yes.
Hi, Nicholas. I use Sturgeon's techniques every day, said Janie Godley. Well, there you go.
You've missed your true vacation here, Mark. These are
So,
good.
Well, I'm going to probably make another one, which is going to be called I Don't Recall.
Yeah, quite.
I know it seems a bit strange that she's going to be able to write a book when she spent 8 hours on the stand or whatever it was saying, I can't remember, I don't recall, whatever. I mean, what kind of memoir is that going to be? Chapter 1, are the things I don't remember about Alex Salmond. Chapter 2, the things I don't remember about Brexit. And so on.
Yes.
Right, anyway, please. Oh, yeah, there we go. People are already putting in their comments and suggestions. We called my struggle. Please translate to German.
Right.
That Mr. Hitler wrote his book from a prison cell.
Yes, he did.
So that may be the case as well. And the ghost will be a ghostwriter. No, I think she's writing it herself.
I believe she is. I think she's far too egotistical to use the services of a ghostwriter.
Yes. Give up the ghost anyway.
Can she write though?
We'll see.
She'll be a ghostwriter.
I
mean, she'll be edited to death, anyway. And legaled as well.
For sure.
Death, anyway. You some suggestions there, David?
I do. Well, at the time I suggested, how about The Lavender Marriage? I thought that would be a nice pithy title for her. I thought maybe The Big Blue Tent.
Blue Tent, that's good.
I like that. And of course, you could have The French Fancy. I think these are all apropos highly. So why not?
A slight variation in yours, David, would be All Under One Tent.
Exactly.
That's very good. Gardening with the police.
Here's some good comment.
Like
Uddingston woman makes £140,000 a year with this one simple trick. Clickbait there.
Yeah, brilliant. But of course, the question is, how many passages in this book will be redacted and just be blank, solid text with no word?
Well, yes, definitely it will be. It's it's like that thing. We'd made that meme before. We redacted everything out. It was Salmond.
Quite.
That's all that's left. Anyway, there is a bit of a wider point here, perhaps, that she's been able to get significant payment for this book.
How much is it?
Well, we don't know if that's not been released, but it was auctioned between 9 publishing houses. So I would reckon maybe in hundreds of thousands, probably.
I would say so. I reckon it would be 6 figures. Yeah, I would reckon.
Yeah. She might need it for legal bills.
Oh, yes. Well, there we go. Or she could use it to pay back the 600,000 that mysteriously went missing from the S&P accounts.
Include-funded independence fund. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's a ring-fenced. Yeah. Oh, that's a good name for a book.
Ring-fenced.
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 That is quite like that, actually. My suggestion, she give the money to refugees. She said she would...
Well, surely she'll give all the money to charity, won't she?
Refugees should house a Butte house and never did. Well, charity begins at home when it comes to the morals, it seems, and with the S&P in general, Mhairi, which we will be talking about in a little bit. This book. I think there was a biography. Someone did one. Was it Massey or someone like that? Did a biography. You always see that picture in the meme. It's like 50 pence in the bargain bin.
That's right.
Yeah.
25 pence I saw today, actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? Oh, okay. Well, there you go. It's going down. Sherlock Holmes and the Missing Flying Iron. So
That's a good one.
I mean, this is just right for someone to write a parody book of such a thing. Yes. Balmoral Iron Lady. That's also very good. Very good.
A question about the proceeds of crime.
Well, that is well, this is the thing, though. Isn't she making money from the public purse in a way? Because she should. Well, I mean, certainly she'll probably donate some. I would imagine to charity. Would she? I don't know.
Who knows?
Who knows? Does it really matter? Anyway, okay, we'll do this. Move on from this one. I'd like to thank you for watching. If you like what we do and would like to support the show, please leave a super thanks or super sticker on YouTube, or go to our website and pledge a monthly or one-time donation. Everything you donate, large or small or large, helps, and we're most grateful for the help. Okay, so we're going to come back in a few seconds. Mary's going to be talking about the magic credit card that every Scottish Government employee seems to have. So, see you in a second.
Well, I'm sure we've all seen all the outrage on social media this week over the details of what civil servants in Scotland have been charging on their government credit cards, paid for by the taxpayer, of course. This covers the 3 years from 2019 to 2022. They spent 14.2 million was charged on nearly 60,000 transactions. So they've been using them like crazy.
Yes.
Now, the details for these transactions have actually been obtained by the Labour Party, Scottish Labour Party. So well done to them.
Indeed.
And they managed to get a huge credit card data dump, they're calling it, revealing the details of what the civil servants have been spending taxpayer money on. And this might be the biggest data dump ever in Holyrood history. So everyone is fascinated and shocked by some of these expenses. One of the first things that the data revealed was that the public purse paid for the former First Minister, Nicola herself, to be treated like royalty at airports. So a lot of people are questioning why she spent nearly £10,000 on travel upgrades, not on travel, just on travel upgrades. And what this was things like being met at the airport and being given the real VIP luxury treatment, being whisked through the airport and into private lounges and being whisked away at the other end and everything. I think each time this happened, for example, on one of the trips to Dublin, it cost about £1,000 just for the upgrade, this VIP treatment upgrade. So a lot of people pretty unhappy about that. What do you think, guys?
Well, to me, it's almost a staggering litany of excess and tactlessness. And people are making the point that this has been at the time where we've had COVID and where we've had the cost of living crisis.
Yeah,
this just is absolutely farcical. Have these people got no self-awareness at all? Absolutely unbelievable. I can't imagine what they think they're achieving with this sort of nonsense. I mean, it's of course the only thing you ever see from SNP and independent supporters as well. Of course, the Tories waste more money. Well, that's not really the point, is it, guys? You know, surely you've got to look after your own little fiefdom first before moaning at anybody else. And this type of spend is just typical, isn't it? We saw the same with Lorna Slater, getting the private ferry across when she could have spent £5 or whatever.
And all the limousines.
All the limousines is exactly right. And so the level of spend and just the sense of entitlement is nauseating, to be honest.
Well, I actually read a really interesting comment about that today, and it said that, you know, for example, when Jack McConnell, when he was the First Minister, was it Jack McConnell? Yeah. He was just in the airport like everybody else. But then when the Scottish Assembly was renamed as a parliament, then, you know, the First Ministers, Alex Salmond, Nicola Sturgeon, like to think of themselves as being like prime ministers and presidents. So then they started looking for all these, you know, luxury treatments, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine, like, say, the head of Cornwall Council, right, getting the VIP treatment? It's just not what it's done. This is this whole idea. They've taken the trappings of this government
Yeah.
and where they can sit there, do nothing, make bad laws at best, and then they can get while they're doing that, they're just taking all the money, right? They're assigning their friends to become ministers.
Yeah.
For starters, there's a massive amount of ministers in their thing. Then they're giving out these credit cards and they're paying all these people to work for them and so on. It's really a kind of mass corruption, I think, to some extent, based on this idea that they deserve it. They're entitled to it because they're running a country, and not just that they are morally superior to the people down there that don't do that. They don't do the same kind of things that they do. But then we're just finding out they do just the same things, and even worse in many cases.
True.
It's very terrible.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was Nicola Sturgeon, and so she's being branded as some kind of diva in the papers. But everybody else around her was doing the same kind of things. So the data also shows that public money was used to buy hundreds of books, including multiple copies of Nicola's own collected speeches. So spending taxpayer.
That's from the people who went bankrupt, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, the publishing house went bankrupt. Yes. Yeah. So people within Scottish government have been buying the book and charging the taxpayer. So Nicola's being enriched by this, of course. Other things that they've been charging, and there's a whole list of crazy stuff, right? There's some people charged 2 driving theory tests at £37 each. How the hell can you put your driving theory test on the taxpayer?
You might understand if it was stuff like, okay, well, I had to go to a hotel.
Yeah, of course.
And I have to pay. I had a meal because I was down somewhere.
Yeah, I was having a meeting,
right? But what's the driving theory got to do with?
Well, what does a £65 yoga class have to do with it? That's another one.
Right.
Oh, it's a stretch.
As well as. Okay. Also, 3 bottles of nail polish at £10.50. I mean, how can you put your nail polish on the taxpayer tab? And why 3 bottles when you're doing that? How about £27 for a PayPal eBay home disco?
Right. I dread to think what that is. A PayPal eBay home disco.
Right? Home disco. Because that's got something to do with the government as well. Or what about £272 for a pair of wellies?
Oh,
what kind of wellies are those?
I bought some from Sports Direct. They cost me £9.
You get them in the charity shop. Everybody, that's where I got mine. For like a £5 or something. But there's even more bizarre items. Are you ready for this? Okay. Somebody put on a pregnancy test.
Oh, yes, I saw that one. Yeah. That was Mr. Tommy was asking what the result was. I mean, that should be government information.
Yeah,
the result was yes. Somebody put black pudding, Stornoway black pudding.
Oh, well, I can understand that. I mean,
that's essential, isn't it? I suppose that'd be essential. And black pudding. I can't live without my black pudding.
Exactly. Yeah.
And even a Scottish government branded T-shirt for a bee inspector. It's just bizarre. This is great. I love it. I hope they do this every year.
Yeah, exactly.
But more seriously, I mean, it is serious that they're I mean, is that embezzlement of funds? I don't know, but they have to justifying these things could be a bit tricky.
Someone else says, why wasn't this stuff caught in an audit? I mean, this is the thing. Why wasn't someone at the top saying, wait a minute? Well, and not even it should be just known amongst the employees of the Scottish government that this is not the stuff that you spend money on. You have to everything has to be accounted for, and you'll get into trouble if you misspend. But of course, the whole government is based on not getting into trouble when they misspend. So is it really a surprise when the people inside it don't get into trouble when they misspend?
Yeah, I know. It's for everyone. And so as well as all these bizarre items that people have been buying, the civil servants and government workers, they also spent thousands on away days. So we've got Edinburgh tours, pottery painting, escape rooms.
Oh, that's disgusting. I mean, that's just taking the mickey, isn't it? That really, isn't it?
Canal trips, laser tag, and the crown on that is a £5,000 bill for the 5-star Glen Eagles Hotel. Wouldn't you just love to be staying at the Glen Eagles Hotel?
They got this data dump here, right? And surely should have the names. People should be able to They should be able to track
See
down
who
who's
it
done this
was.
spending,
Yeah.
right?
I think they know who it is. It's just not been published.
Is it one or two people who are just racking it up, or is it just endemic across the whole system?
Well, nobody's been named, so
really?
I'm not sure. I guess Scottish Labour have got the details, but one of the priciest away days
Okay, still
was was an away day at Edinburgh Zoo, which
yeah.
somehow managed to cost £2,366
Wow, how's that even
for
possible?
an away day. Well, I don't know how many people were on the away day,
Right.
but that's Edinburgh Zoo.
Is that like a special tour of the monkey enclosure?
I don't know.
Goodness me. Most important. Well, given what the monkeys get up to, it's probably the best place for this.
Monkey business, yeah, a lot of monkey
Indeed.
business, definitely. So I mean, why can't we get away days paid for by the taxpayer? I think that should be one of the benefits of living in Scotland, that everybody gets an away day. Definitely. So, one of the things that's been suggested to cut down on this, Humza Yousaf himself has said that there's going to be a review. They're going to review the spending and make sure that everybody knows what the spending guidelines are. But apparently, normally you only have to report something if it's cost more than £500.
Well, that's why, isn't it?
So people are saying, well, there should be lower the threshold and declare all the expenditures.
No threshold, of course. There shouldn't be any threshold.
So maybe we could get some of these abuses could be stamped out by that. But this leads to a bigger issue, which was reported today in the Herald by Martin Williams. And he reports that the cost to the taxpayer of Scotland's civil servants, including the spin doctors, has rocketed up more than £600 million in 7 years. So basically, the staff salaries within all forms of government in the Quangos in Scotland gone up 60% from an estimated £1 billion it was in 2016, and it's now at £1.6 billion in 2023.
Right.
So, I mean, how can it go up 60% in such a short time? Who are all these civil servants? And it seems that every single one of them has got a credit card.
It sounds like it, with a very, very generous credit limit. My goodness.
Wow, it seems. Well, I mean, it's part of the way they work is they want everyone to be somehow subservient to the state, right? So you either get people and give benefits to people in benefits, or freebies, or you employ them in the civil service and stuff like that, and employ them in the government, and then they're not likely to vote against you. You're not likely to vote for someone who comes in and says, "Well, I want to cut all these government departments and save money so that we can actually spend it in drug treatment." For example, right? Not like that.
Yeah.
So basically, when they're complaining about this, well, we don't have enough money, and we don't have enough money to mitigate the bedroom tax or the two-child benefit limit. Then you look, well, why are you spending all this money on civil servants, and why are all these civil servants then spending all the money on rubbish? Anyway, because there's no control at all. There's no control in this system, and it's just what's the word? A perfect venue for scammers and people who want to, take from the system for their own benefit. And we just see that. I mean, it even goes to what appears to be Nicola Sturgeon's own family.
Yeah.
Right, her own husband taking from the system. Take. That's what they're not interested in giving to people. They're only interested in promoting themselves and making themselves rich at everyone else's expense.
Paul McDonald says the same happened towards the end of the Roman Empire.
Absolutely true. Yeah,
at least they had toga parties.
Exactly. We should bring a pet horse in to be an MSP the next start with Caligula.
Oh, it feels like it could actually get to that.
I think you're just giving them ideas, Mark. The toga party.
That'll
be on next year's list.
The fall of the Roman Empire. Well, Nicola Sturgeon fiddled while Scotland burned.
Yep.
And we can try and drag up any more Roman metaphors if we like. But it's just a terrible situation. We're like, what can be done about this? I mean, this is the basics. Don't spend other people's money. It's not your money. Right? It's not your money. It's taxpayers' money, and a lot of that money is coming from, UK taxpayers, mainly from people in the south of England, and it's like it's just not right. That's not the way it's supposed to work. And not to mention the other areas in the rest of the UK that are deprived, as it were, and need the money as well. Tory party, very good.
That's funny.
Very, very, very good. David, you're going to be up in a minute with talking about tactical voting.
I am indeed, yes.
In the upcoming election, which sounds quite interesting. So let's have a look at that in a second. Right, glad to have you with us on the show tonight. David's going to talk about how to vote rather than
Hamilton West.
Indeed, yeah. So I'm going to give a little bit of a contextual setting to the idea of tactical voting first off, because it's discussed a lot. Recently, we've seen some discussion about tactical voting because there's been a string of by-elections in England. 3 very recently, including Boris Johnson's own constituency. There's one in Scotland in the next couple of months, and of course there's a general election about to take place. So tactical voting, as always, is a hot topic because there's a very unpopular government in Westminster. There's an equally growing so unpopular government in Holyrood, and so there's a lot of talk about tactical voting in order to get rid of them. Now, it would seem to me that from discussion that I've seen on social media, it's clear that it's probably a misunderstood term, because several times recently I've seen pro-UK Twitter accounts, people saying, no, look, tactical voting doesn't work. The last election in Scotland proved that. Well, guys, I
saw that as well.
Exactly. Well, I have to say I disagree entirely, and I will explain why. Because in 2021 Holyrood election, there was a party called All for Unity, and they came up with a very innovative, visionary, if you like, tactical voting strategy. The idea being the best placed pro-UK candidate would stand pretty much alone against the SNP candidate in the constituencies, and then for a list-only party, i.e. All for Unity, to contest regional list seats. The idea being they couldn't be handicapped by winning in constituencies, which reduces the value of their vote. Therefore, they could win a lot of list seats. And meanwhile, you'd have a straight fight between the best placed pro-UK candidate against the SNP candidate in a constituency. And instead, what happened was, what I should say, had that been followed through, had more pro-UK votes been given to that particular way of voting, the number of SNP MPs in Holyrood would have been drastically reduced.
Yes,
exactly. However, I mean, the stats bear that out. I produced example after example for months, but what happened, of course, Scotland's pro-UK voters felt they couldn't go through with the idea, thanks mainly to obsessive anti-All for Unity campaigning by the Scottish Conservatives and, frankly, hysterical anti-All for Unity newspaper articles, but especially from Ruth Davidson's favourite little boy, Stephen Daisley, who wrote the same article.
He put a black mark on himself for that type of stuff. It was
no question. He wrote the same article every 3 times a week for weeks, and that's because he had a fixation with George Gallagher. That's what happened. So as we know what happened, SNP took 64 seats, the Greens took 8. Now, the Conservatives stood still, Labour went slightly backwards. So a pro-independence majority was formed, and it passed easily the worst legislation in Scotland's political history. I'm talking about the Hate Crimes Bill, the Gender Recognition Reform Bill. Absolute nonsense. The deposit return scheme, just absolute rubbish from start to finish. Dreadful. So now the point is, guys, tactical voting didn't take place in this election. You hardly saw any tactical voting, with the exception of Jackie Bailey, who got some help in Dumbarton. Jackson Corlett, I guess, in Eastwood, you could say, and the 4 Liberal Democrat constituency wins. Now, I would say that was tactical voting because the Liberal Democrats get almost no votes at all in the list, and their votes in those constituencies was way out of kilter with the proportion of list votes they got. So there was clearly some tactical voting going on there. But you just have to look at the constituency votes by by party in 2021. The Conservatives took almost 600,000 constituency votes, but they won 5 seats, which took a total of only 93,000 votes. Now, remember, in Holyrood, the constituency or first vote is first past the post. If you come second, you might as well have torn your ballot paper up. You don't win anything. That means 500,000 Conservative constituency votes were wasted on losing candidates. And then winning their 2 constituency seats, Labour wasted 545,000 pro-UK constituency votes. That's 1,050,000 votes wasted, thrown away. You might as well have wiped your rear end with the paper as voted for those people. That, gentlemen and ladies, is not tactical voting. That's the opposite. It's tribal, divisive, blindly foolish voting, and that's what we saw. That's what went wrong at the last election. Mark, any thoughts on that?
Yes, well, I think, of course, times have changed since then. That's one thing. But I think the issue really is that the electoral system is a disaster.
Yeah.
I think that's what it comes down to. Basically, we should have a clearer system. We either have, and it's a regional administration. I would actually prefer that it was, just pure PR, for example, or it was pure first past the post, something like that. But it's too complicated for people to understand.
Yeah.
And there's and some people might say, well, then the SNP would have a majority then. Oh, fine, but they still can't. The Scottish Parliament still doesn't have the ability to have a referendum. So that's by the by. And also, I think it would make things more dynamic. If you, for example, if the SNP are big winners one election cycle, then it's more likely that it will change in the following election cycle, because you can't maintain giant majorities like that. And also the bigger issue, I think, and another issue is that even if it was pure PR, proportional representation, then at least in that case, we would have had the SNP in power, because there are more people voted for pro-UK parties than voted for the SNP. So we've got a situation where a minority of SNP voters were able to install a government, an SNP government, that then installed a tiny minority of Greens to try and get their policies through. And we're just being continuously beaten up by the minority. It's just it's ridiculous. So it's something I think that we need a proper commission on this to change the system. But of course, the Tories not going to do anything about it because they're scared.
Exactly. That's exactly that's what we saw. We saw fear. We saw fear from the and this is not preaching. I'm not getting a sermon here, but we did see definite turn away from what was proven to be mathematically, arithmetically the best way to vote. Really, now it has to be because of fear, and also a reluctance to let newcomers into the party. And let's not mince words. I mean, there was a certain amount of antipathy towards the leading light in Ulster Unity, George Gallagher. So yeah, we understand why that happened, but you can't argue with the logic of it, because what happened? Albert copied the Ulster Unity strategy word for word, copy and paste. They absolutely did. So, and it's a fact. If you stand as a list-only candidate and you don't stand in any constituencies, you've got a far better chance of winning a list seat than a constituency party, because as soon as they win one seat in that region, their votes thereafter are halved, and if they win another list seat, the votes are halved again. So you're getting 3-4 times the power of one vote by doing that. So it's unquestionable that it works.
Yeah, I know, but we shouldn't really have a system. Sorry, Mhairi,
you're right.
We shouldn't really have a system that can be gamed. Because sure enough, we can game it. If we can game it on our side, at some point they're going to game it on their side.
Exactly.
And we can't complain at that point, right?
True.
Sorry, what were you going to say?
Well, it's just there's a comment here from Nicola Marshbank, and I think this was one of the main reasons why people didn't go for it. She says it's a big deal to ask Tories to vote for anyone else. If you're a Tory, you simply don't agree with the Labour and Lib Dem platforms. Your views aren't going to count regardless.
Listen, I hear that, and I'll take that point on board, because it's quite right, and it's something I was just about to talk about. My recommendation, bearing in mind that Westminster is first past the post, as is the upcoming Hamilton, West and Rutherglen by-election. First past the post, there's no question of game, no question of list votes. So let's just remember, we're trying to get one person winning this election. So my recommendation for the forthcoming general election, first off, would be there has to be a list of recommended pro-UK candidates by constituency, drawn up, agreed amongst the various pro-UK groups, and widely distributed, saying this is the officially sanctioned tactical voting guide. In this constituency, it is likely that Labour will be the most, if you like, credible opposition to the SNP. So we would recommend that in this constituency you vote Labour, and you do that across the board based on voting trends, the way the votes have been in the past, the way that seat's gone in the past, any boundary changes. Pass that around. Don't have several lists as we did last time, some produced by goodness knows who. And I would start this in the Rutherglen Hamilton West by-election. Now, it's very straightforward. Labour has consistently, traditionally won this seat. The Conservatives have never done better than third. Even at the last general election, when we know the Labour vote total was artificially lower because they had an extremely unpopular leader and a very incompetent leader in Jeremy Corbyn, a highly controversial figure, a very divisive figure. Even with that, the Labour vote fell. But even with that backdrop, that context, the Conservatives only took 15% of the vote in that seat. If they can't take more than 15% of the vote in a seat when the leader of the party who comes second above them is Jeremy Corbyn, then they're never going to win it. So the Conservatives cannot and will not win this election. They can't. Penny Mordaunt came up the other day and said, I think there could be a surprise. I said, no, they won't. Let's be honest. Okay,
No,
they won't.
not going to win. There's no
No.
chance of that
They're
winning.
not going to win it. Seriously. So it's quite true that not all Tories will vote Labour, and it's quite true that not all Labour supporters will vote Conservative. I totally get that. And many people have given good reason why they wouldn't vote Labour because of their, if you like, weak stance on women's rights. And I completely understand, and I totally respect the fact that some people will be reluctant to vote Labour. But what people are saying is, there's going to be a surprise there because I know a lot of women and they're never going to vote for these. They're going to vote Conservative. No, you're not, guys. And it's lovely to think that way. And I'm not being patronising, but there are 81,000 people in that constituency. It really doesn't matter how many people you know. Nobody knows 40,000 people. Nobody does. So, that's just, you can't, whatever you think, if you're going to be voting for the party of your choice, that is doing the opposite of tactical voting. That's absolutely the antithesis of tactical voting. If you want to vote determinedly for one party because another party is annoyed you, that's fine. But that's not tactical voting. Tactical voting is saying which party is most likely to win the election and affect this outcome, getting the SNP out. Right, that party, right, I'm voting on. That's tactical voting, nothing else.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things in this. I think the Tories can't win it, and we talked about this a little bit last week in the show, and why are they fielding Thomas Kerr, who we think is a pretty good guy, and doing that, whatever, it's fine. So they should maybe put a nobody in there, and not necessarily campaign that well, because it's actually in the Tories' interest for Labour to win.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Because basically SNP need to get a resounding defeat in here, and anything that gets in the way of that, and it's annoying, there are a lot of things that get in the way of that. Michael Shanks is his not independence, his kind of I'm my own man thing, instead of going with the party, also gets in the way with it. So all of that, the Tories on one side, they have to, I think, they have to realise it's a bit of a dead duck for them. But the problem, the real issue, really, of course, is not so much Tories voting for Labour, and it's really we need to get the SNP back. And we've talked about this many times. So Golden Bridge theory. What is going to make people go back from Labour to the SNP? That's from the SNP real thing. To Labour. Sorry, from SNP to Labour. That's the real thing that's going to happen in this, and that's what the big shift is going to be, and is of course dissatisfaction with the SNP not achieving their goals, and also wanting to be in the winning side because everyone thinks Labour is going to win. That's fine, perhaps, but what can we do? What can people do to improve that? I think, that we've often said about tactical voting, Tories are quite happy to tactically vote.
Yes, that's
Labour,
right.
Labour or not, I'm never going to vote for Tories. It's fair enough. It's kind of a bit, as you say, maybe tribal. So we have to deal with that, and that's one of the reasons I think this, the Alliance for Unity strategy failed in the end. So it was successful in some parts. Jackie Bailey was definitely a beneficiary of that, and that one vote for her, meant that they couldn't get the SNP couldn't get a majority.
True.
So there's a lot going on in this, and I think it could have quite a good idea for not necessarily a tactical voting strategy, but an actual voting strategy for this election. Say if you're Labour, if you're SNP, and you want this, and this, then you need to vote for that. And if you want this, you want to vote for that, and so on. And actually the options, because it's complex. And I think perhaps maybe in the end of the day, even though Michael Shanks is a complex character, perhaps maybe not the best character there, even if we get that switch over to them under those circumstances, then it proves that the SNP are finished.
Exactly.
So that's
exactly indeed. That's very good. A very good series of points you make there. A lot of the people here are saying, pretty much to back up what I've been saying. A lot of the comments are like, "I can never vote Labour." Only 3 Conservatives voted for the GRR bill, so that's the party I vote for. I totally respect that, guys. Totally. And one thing I would say is, don't think that you shouldn't vote for another party in case it, if you like, dilutes the vote for Labour. All I would say is, yes, cast your vote, by all means do. But if you're going to have a concerted effort to try and get Labour out, all that's going to do is hand the seat to the SNP. It
Yes.
will not give the seat to the Conservatives. The Conservatives will not win this by-election. They won't. It's as simple as that. So if you're voting Conservative, you're not voting to affect the outcome of the election other than to increase the chances of the SNP winning. Now, you might be doing that for your own reasons, which I totally respect, but that is the outcome of what you're doing. And so I would just say, think about what the impact will be of you voting that way. And I wouldn't say don't vote Conservative. It's fine. Cast your vote any you want, but just please don't have a tactical voting guide over here saying let's keep Labour out because they did this. Whereas over here we're saying let's have a tactical voting guide, get the SNP. We can't do that, guys.
Well, ultimately, I think we do need to get back to a situation where we just vote for the parties we like and do that. But at the moment, there are nuances to it. That's, I think, pretty good analysis there. We'll be back in a second. We're going to talk about Tom Gallagher's new book.
Brilliant.
Okay. I left the book on the other side of the room there. So
I'll get it for you.
Can you get it, Mary?
Yeah.
Okay. Yesterday, I was talking with Tom Gallagher, the pleasure of interviewing him, who recently published his new book, which is called Europe's Leadership Famine. And Tom it's over there in that rack over there in the yellow bind rack. Okay. That's what happens when you don't prepare.
Oh, bless.
Thank you, Mary. Right, here it is. Here, Europe's Leadership Famine, Tom Gallagher, Portraits of Defiance and Decay from 1950 to 2022. Sorry, get that a bit more in the frame there. And what this book does is it covers a host of European leaders, Macron, Schroeder, Andreotti, Tito, so on, Boris Johnson included, Sturgeon, Berlusconi, Zelensky, and so on. And basically has a kind of what you say. It's not actually a biography. It's more like an analysis of each leader and in the context of is Europe. What is the state of leadership in Europe at the moment? Now, a full interview is going to run. It's about 50 minutes long, but I thought I'll try and get that edited and up online next week, full of interesting insights and observations. Anyway, I'll put up a little clip. It's about 6 minutes long of Tom talking about Nicola Sturgeon. Oh, here it comes. The same kind of nationalism, gender politics. It's all this kind of pushing identity as a way to distract from other issues.
There are all sorts of opportunities for entrepreneurs, for political hucksters, wheeler dealers to come forward and say, well, march behind me, and I will make what you believe in possible through laws, etc. And the great paradox with Sturgeon is that she made her way until midlife as a fairly bog standard, orthodox, territorially minded politician who wanted to set up a new state in Europe, break away from an existing one. But once she really tasted power, her sort of core task faded into the background, and she picked up a lot of other issues that suggest to me and suggest to a lot of her former colleagues who feel betrayed by what she did or didn't do while in office, that instead of being a sort of nationalist, she was really some kind of an internationalist, who was world focused. First example of that was Brexit. She had lots of opportunities really to make life impossible for a very badly divided London establishment. And instead, she just rallied round in a rather mulish, poorly worked out way, one faction in the conflict over whether there should be a Brexit or not, and failed to use the sort of Brexit fracture in British political life to advance the cause of Scottish independence. And it went on from there. She embraced the Me Too movement, the idea that women shouldn't no longer be the playthings of dominant and unscrupulous men. And it would seem really to have a go with, or perhaps even destroy, her predecessor, the man who had put her in the position she found herself, Alex Salmond. And then it was the environmental issue. I mean, she fought throughout her political career, evangelized about the importance of the hydrocarbon resource in the North Sea that was really Scotland's oil. But suddenly by 2020, because the international mood was changing against industry, she decided she must jump on this bandwagon and become a militant opposing the car economy, opposing any further extraction of oil from the North Sea. And she got away with these dizzy somersaults, I think, for a very sad reason. And she was operating in a very underdeveloped political system where there were few checks and balances, where I would say that it was all too easy for her, who was a skilled manipulator of the media, to infantilize a large section of the population. It's a kind of Pied Piper, able to rally particularly young middle-class Scots who had gone to university, who were enthused by the ecological themes around her cause. But it was a small segment of the population. She basically lost far more adherents than she gained.
Well, certainly. Right, and so okay, excuse me. Right, so that was just a very small clip of it. There's got a lot of it coming. Some insights into, of course, Nicola Sturgeon's place amongst the leaders. Which ones was she like? Which ones were? What kind of qualities did she share with these other leaders that caused disaster? And most of it comes down to very, very, very self-serving, I think. Mhairi, you got something to say?
Well, we helped Tom publish the book. Mark did the cover designs.
Thank you.
And we did
a good project.
We did all the publishing. It was very interesting. And I really learned a lot about politics in Europe and about a lot of the leaders that I didn't really know anything about.
Yes, I highly recommend it. It's a great introduction to European politics in the post-war period, right up to today. It's got excellent analysis of decline of political leadership. I think you had a read of it as well, David.
Absolutely, yeah. And I've read several passages already. I was on a lengthy train journey yesterday. I read the Sturgeon passage with great interest. I've got to say, this is first class. I mean, Tom, you know how much I admire Tom. I think he's a formidable intellect. I think he's a great guy.
Yes, that's very true.
It's very much in line with, funnily enough, he talked about one of the 5 causes of, or 5 channels, I think he described them as, one being the rise of identity politics in states affected by territorial cleavages. Now, that very much ties in with Julie Birchall's book, which was called Welcome to the Woke Trials, How Identity Killed Progressive Politics. And that's true. Identity politics has torn Scotland apart, really. Yes. That's what's happened. And the thing that gets me about with Tom's book and Julie's book, they've got, on every page, they'll come up with a razor sharp analysis of something, and you think, my God, they're absolutely right. And they do this several times on every page.
Yes.
After page after page, I think, my God, these guys are so talented. Yes. It's amazing. Really.
We do. In the interview, we talk a lot about identity politics. Yep. And there is a wider theme, I think, certainly for younger people who are looking for identity, and people selling identity to them instead of achievement. You take on an identity, or you somehow your identity is you, and that gives you meaning, which is different from the olden days when you used to go out and get a job and do stuff and get meaning from your work or something else. So there's a lot of that going on there. Go woke and then go broke. Well, we're hoping that perhaps we are reaching the breaking point of woke culture, but it'll just be a comeback in another form. And one of actual Tom's points was that even when Sturgeon gone, people can look at this system, Scotland, where we have broken institutions and go, yeah, this is good for me.
Yep.
I can come in here, I can get some cash and get some power out of this. And, unfortunately, the Scottish political culture is very naive. And so it causes, leaves us people very open to it. We always think we're better, think we're better than anyone else. And then look what we got, Sturgeon and salmon before. I mean, really, come on, wake up.
Yes.
That's where the real wake. Anyway,
a little bit of awareness here, guys. Yeah, quite.
Things you can do to support the show. You can make huge thanks to I'm going ahead of myself. Huge thanks to Tom for coming on, and the book is available on Amazon and on Kindle now. It's really, really well worth your time.
Definitely.
Right. Okay. You can support the show with donation to the majority, or super thanks, so on. You can buy a T-shirt or a mug. Look at this beautiful T-shirt. It's really great. You can subscribe to the show on YouTube and tell your friends about us. You can set your camera to that little QR code that's come up there, and you can get yes, they may take our lives, but they'll never take our camper van's T-shirt. That's a good one. Right, we'll be back in a second. We're going to run a little bit late, but we won't be seeing us for a few weeks, so it'll be worth it with this set of Zoomers that are coming up. It is the highlight of the week, the moment you have all been waiting for. It is Zoomer of the Week. Right, okay, so my Zoomer of the Week is Humza Yousaf, appearing at the Edinburgh Fringe. He said that his opponent should F off. Yes, here is another.
Nice.
Here's Humza Yousaf as an X-rated message for bigots, well, as he urges Scots to ignore those who dismiss them. Well, it depends what your definition of bigots is to some extent. He says, this may be an uncomfortable message for some, but I've spent most of my political life being told by mainly middle-aged white conservatives, both in politics and frankly some in the media, that I'm not smart, I'm out of my depth, essentially saying you don't belong here in the political realm. And yeah, I hope that any other person, whether it's your colour, whether it's your gender, whether it's your background, if you get told actually you don't belong here, you should kind of look at me and say, F you.
Yeah.
Now, aside from the unprofessional language, let's look at this claim. Notice how, first of all, he targets white middle-aged conservatives. Now, I am generally a white middle-aged person, and occasionally I have been known to be conservative. I can tell you, though, that it's 100% not the case. Over my career, I've hired people of all colours, races, genders, and politics. For example, when we worked in Japan, we had 40 employees from 16 different countries. And I don't even know what the religions of half those people were. And I found out that people who claim that their problems arise from their colour or their identity are usually the stupidest. And that goes for white people too, I have to add, being an immigrant in a non-white country. So I don't care what anyone looks like and what gender they are, what background they have. Although at this point, I should mention that Humza Yousaf has had a privileged background, extremely privileged. Yeah. He came from a wealthy family, went to a private school, was elected to a job that had pays $100,000 a year for doing zero work, and he's become the first minister. So how exactly has he been told he doesn't belong here? He's at the top of the Scottish society.
Absolutely.
Right? So what I actually care about, and I believe the most Scottish voters care about, is not the colour of your skin or your gender or your identity, but your competence in the job. And Humza Yousaf has proven time and time again that he doesn't have any. This is a man who failed in every government department he's been assigned to. He's a man who, while Minister of Transport, drove a car without a licence. He thought it was a good idea to ride a scooter at high speed down a government corridor, resulting in an entirely predictable crash. And he thinks having the Greens in power is a great idea while everyone else looks on in horror, including people in his own party. Yeah. He tried to harass people of colour who accused him of racism because they wouldn't put his kid in the nursery. A man who's relentlessly stupid, galactically stupid. So stupid he should be used as the international measurement of stupidity. Oh, how stupid is he? He's 0.5 Humzas. Oh, geez, that's bad.
But it would never go over 1, though, would it?
So F you, Humza, for trying to guilt us into putting up with your failures. Stop using your colour, skin colour, and other excuses as shield for your incompetence. Stop trying to get sympathy for your idiocy.
Whoa.
There we go.
Well,
Get in. Have that,
I think you win for passion, Mark.
Right,
alone.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Right.
It's just it's so much victim blaming and shifting the blame and all that. And you're like, no, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I really don't think that's the case at all. And we come out with a whole load of other stuff, and this whole thing of the fringe there, just nonsense.
It is nonsense. It's barely even worth having an opinion in the stuff.
Well, it's like, just do your job and do it well. That's what we want to hear. We don't want to hear you blaming folk, white middle-aged conservatives. You probably haven't even met many white middle-aged conservatives.
Well, Sean Geddes says, if you're incompetent, you're incompetent, no matter what colour you are.
Yes, right.
Here.
Cares about that. If you care about that, you're an idiot. That's the thing. Whether you care about it, positively or negative, let's just, can you do the job or not? You can't do the job. It's as simple as that. Moving on. Mary, no, David, it's going to be you or the next Zoomer.
My candidate for Zoomer of the Week is TV presenter Hardeep Singh Kohli.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, indeed. Now, in addition to being a Z-list celebrity, Kohli is better known probably as a property landlord in Glasgow. And also he is, of course, the brother of Sanjeev Kohli, also known as Naveed.
The funny one.
Okay, exactly. So,
yeah.
So it's fair to say that Hardeep is a controversial figure, I think you'd say. He owns properties in Glasgow, which he lets to tenants. Officials have described his properties as grubby and dirty. He's been convicted of driving without a license, a bit like his spiritual leader.
Must be a nationalist thing, that.
Yeah, he was instructed by his doctor not to drive. His license was cancelled by DVLA, but drive he did. Well, okay, fine. Now, of course, more disturbingly, he has been involved in several allegations of sexual misconduct in an inquiry started by the Times in 2020. Testimony appeared from a number of females stating that Kohli appears to use his position of some prominence, I use the term relatively there, in an attempt to persuade younger women to enter sexual relations with him. Very much like, if you come to bed with me, I can move your career. This is real appalling stuff, real casting couch stuff. Anyway, in short, it sounds like a real sleazebag. Now, this week, after it, you may have seen the very, very unpleasant, very disturbing account of his behaviour appearing on social media.
Yes, it's all over Twitter.
Horrible. I mean, a horrible story. He's been arrested and he's now been charged in connection with non-recent sexual offences, so going back some time, clearly. Now, previously, after a female comedian actress complained about Kohli, he admitted openly, it is now clear to me that my actions and words made women feel intimidated, undermined and undervalued. For this, I apologise unreservedly and can only hope to live a life of greater understanding. How touching. Anyway, I have no idea if
it was touching. That was a problem.
Right, exactly right. I have no idea if we've got to say this. I have no idea if Kohli is guilty or innocent of any charges. I would never hint either way. Nothing that I'm saying about his previous reported behaviour is intended as in any way an attempt to assume or decide on his guilt or innocence. I would never do that because I don't know. I have no idea. However, what I would say is, by his own admission, it's about time he stopped behaving like a feudal baron and actually started showing women an awful lot more respect than he does currently. So for that reason, Hardeep Singh Kohli is my Zoomer of the Week.
Yes, also, of course, a very strident national supporter. Didn't he call people who didn't support independence Bawbags or something like that?
Bawbags, I think it was. Yep, exactly right.
That type of thing as well. I mean, it's like, come on. Have some serious discourse.
Maybe just.
Why is there just so much sex pestery going on with all the nationalists?
Yeah, you're so right.
Oh, it's a I mean, they won't get that. They're not scrutinised that much.
Yeah,
institutions don't hold them to account, and their own party certainly isn't going to.
Well, look at Blackford. Oh, you know how much I think of Patrick, and all they did was cover up what he had done and victimise, or rather blame the victim. It's appalling, absolutely appalling.
It is terrible. Okay, very good, David. Next up, Mary, you're going to be doing yours.
My nomination for Zoomer of the Week is Mhairi Black.
Oh, yes.
Good
Perennial.
old Mhairi. So this week she said that those responsible for the debate over transgender rights were bad actors and 50-year-old Karens,
Oh.
and suggested that anyone who disagreed with her views on these issues, they couldn't be decent people.
Right.
Then she went on to say that those who made intellectual arguments against extending the trans rights were like past generations who claimed non-white ethnic groups were inferior. In
Yeah.
other words, white supremacists.
Yeah.
Well, we know a group of white supremacists and, white Scottish supremacists. So
Very much. We
that's
do indeed.
this is from the Times here. White supremacists. She's wearing a white jumper at the same time as well.
So Mhairi doesn't seem to understand that anyone could have any concerns about women's safety or about putting male rapists into, female prisons or anything like that. Susan Smith, she's the director of For Women Scotland, so she had something to say about it. She said that Miss Black's comments were a damning indictment of her intellectual capacity and her fitness to act as a legislator.
Very well said.
Mhairi's been telt. She added her inability to grasp why highly vulnerable women in prison, fleeing domestic violence or being cared for in hospital might not want to share intimate spaces with someone of the male sex suggests that it's long past time she got out of her highly cosseted, gilded bubble.
Wow.
Women who disagree with her should not be forced to be silent like some latter-day scold, nor are they the racist or religious fundamentalist bogey women.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. I mean, I feel sorry for women, really, to some extent. You've been told on one side, like in the Barbie movie, that you have to be a Supreme Court judge to get satisfaction, and then told that you're a bad person if you're letting men in your private spaces, so to speak. Just seems relentless. Really relentless, and instead of Mhairi Black saying, "Oh, there's a nuanced position here, and that there is there's two sides to this issue that need to be resolved," and what she's doing, she's like, "No, you're a white supremacist." I mean, come on, I'm basically the same as a white supremacist.
Yeah.
It's really not. It's out of order.
Oh, it's appalling, and certainly this is something that's treatment that's been meted out specifically to women right now. It is appalling. I mean, how did we ever end up with a situation like this where women's rights are being eroded openly in front of our eyes, and not only that, the rights of homosexual lesbians?
Yeah,
what's going on? Seriously, are we just going backwards here? This is absolutely disgraceful, terrible stuff. So yeah, awful.
Yes, Mary. So.
Yep. Well, so Mhairi Black is my Zoomer of the Week.
Okay, right. Well, David, I think it's you because you're away.
Okay, guys. Well, you know how susceptible I am to the views of our beloved listeners and viewers, and it's very clear that there's a unanimous winner tonight, and that is the increasingly unhinged and the utterly appalling Humza Yousaf.
Yeah, it's a win.
Yeah, I think it definitely wins.
Well
I think.
Yes, I thought I'd give the pass. Give it some.
Yeah,
passion.
I think you could win an Oscar.
It just annoys me. It's like you're to blame for my incompetence. I mean, come on. Yeah, grit, man. I don't think so.
I rather think not.
I'll take the job. Imagine I took the job, right? And I'll say I wasn't able to do it, and then I'd say, well, it's because I'm white.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like nonsense.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Humza's the winner.
Right. Humza is the winner, Zoomer of the Week. Right. Well, thank you for being on the show with us tonight. It's been really quite good. I'll leave you with the thought of the week. Has there ever been a bigger disconnect between voters and those who supposedly represent them? Scotland were ruled by the minority Greens inside an SNP administration that was put in power by a minority of votes. And if we want to fight, the Tory party ignores its base, while Labour can't make its mind up about minority issues that few people care about. It's time they all started to listen to what the majority, small m, wants. We're so happy to have you on the show with us every week on Scotland's #1 politics chat. We will see you again in 2 weeks. We're taking 2 weeks break. So it's 3 weeks.
We'll see you on the third week.
Yes. 30th of August is the next show,
30th of August.
August the 30th. Until then, it's been our pleasure. So we will see you again soon. Take care.
And thank you for all your comments, everyone. Thank you very much.
Cheers, everyone. See you in 3 weeks' time. Enjoy August.
Right. Thank you all. And we'll put this. Okay. Bye now.